At Empower Us, we're delivering compelling conversations on nonprofit tech and fundraising. We're bringing together nonprofit leaders in the field and tech providers that are powering missions around the world. Meet Shawn Olds, co-founder and CEO of boodleAI. We asked Shawn 10 questions on the power of predictive analytics in fundraising, the company's culture of service, and how tech serves but cannot replace relationship building.
My name is Shawn Olds. I'm the co-founder and CEO of boodleAI. We are a people-focused predictive analytics platform powered by machine learning that helps nonprofits find their best donors and retain them to maximize the value they can deliver to their mission.
Why did you start a company serving the nonprofit sector?
I like to say my co-founder and I started the company because we're lazy. He and I both spent over 20 years working on nonprofit boards, and that involved a lot of fundraising. And we just saw how inefficient and ineffective fundraising is in the nonprofit space, in spite of some just amazing technology in the commercial space. And we knew we were going to be on nonprofit boards for the next 20 years, and we didn't want to be as ineffective and inefficient. So we decided to build a technology that would make it easier.
How has your original vision evolved to today?
Our initial vision was actually to build a predictive analytics engine that would power peer-to-peer fundraising, right? Because that's what we were doing as a board member. As a board member, you reach out to your network, and a lot of times that's actually damaging, because what I'll do is I'll bring in 10 friends who I guilted into giving, but they really don't have a passion for the nonprofit the way I do. They have their own passions. And so now that puts a weight on the development team to then go work with those people and waste time figuring out, hey, this person's never coming back if Shawn doesn't ask them. Mm-hmm. So what we quickly figured out after we launched our peer-to-peer platform was that development teams wanted to use the platform themselves. They wanted to be able to focus on, for example, this year, food banks have been inundated with first-year donors, but the development team hasn't gotten any larger. So they love these new donations that are coming in, but they're not sure where to start or who to talk to. And so being able to have a platform that allows them to really narrow in on, hey, this is what this person looks most like our major gift donors, while this person looks most like our monthly recurring donor. And now they can engage their donor, their first-time donor, at the place their donor wants to be met, rather than just kind of mass blasting them and not really resonating with them.
What makes boodleAI different from your peers?
So one of the big differentiations in just predictive analytics in general is that when we built this 4 years ago, or started building it 4 years ago, and we have over now 20 patents pending on our technology, what we really wanted to focus on was a person's fit and affinity towards a cause. So a lot of the tools used in nonprofits today focus just on wealth. Who's the wealthiest person in the list? Let's go after them. That doesn't always mean a wealthy person doesn't mean that they're going to give. If you're running the All Things Apple Foundation and Bill Gates is in a prospect list, well, he may be the richest guy in your list, but he's not going to give you any money. So wealth can be a little bit of a weak indicator. It's a good indicator, but it shouldn't be the all-encompassing. The other thing that's really used is intent-based data. So what websites did Mitch click on? How long was he there? What emails did he click on? What did he tweet? What did he like on Facebook? And those are very good to tell you that a person might make a donation in the next 30, 60, 90 days, but it's not necessarily good in telling you the person's going to stay for the long term. So what we really try to build in is bringing in data that we consider affinity-based data, really defines who the individual is. And so we bring in over 550 different data points about each individual that is fit and affinity-based. And we use that across the spectrum of donors that they have to train their algorithms and build them, we call our proprietary models guide-on. So to build them a guide-on of what their best major gift donor looks like, or what their best monthly recurring donor looks like.
Is there a cause closest to your heart?
I ended up on a board for almost a decade. I just stepped down last year, actually, but almost a decade with the National Guard Youth Challenge Foundation, which takes high school kids who have been kicked out of high school aged kids, I should say, kids who statistically 95% of them will go to jail, or I'm sorry, not jail, prison. They'll be basically on the taxpayer rolls for the rest of their lives. And it gets them a GED, it teaches them a life trade, and puts them back out in society. And over 30 years, it has a 90% success rate. My most memorable event was I went to my first dinner for them, having no idea what the dinner was for. I was meeting with a friend in town who was a donor to them. The only time we could meet was over this dinner. And he's like, I've got an extra seat, just come to the dinner. And I sat at the dinner, and I wish I could remember her name today, but I sat next to this young lady who was about 22 years old, who in her preteen years had been abused by a family member, had been homeless, had been hooked on drugs, kicked out of high school. Through this program, she got her GED, got into community college, got into college. And as I was talking to her, she was about to start med school. And I looked at her and I'm like, I had a very good life as a kid. I grew up in a nice middle-class military family, had everything I ever needed, and I couldn't get into med school. And here this young lady with all the adversity she had dealt with was still there. And I literally networked in to get onto that board because I wanted to become a part of an organization that could have an impact like that.
What defines your company culture?
Our team is a team where we work together. We try to always remain cognizant of who we're working for too. While we do work some now in the commercial space, we started at our core in the nonprofit space. So one of the things that the initial team built is a pledge we put together called the 54321 pledge. So 5% of all of our profits go back to nonprofits. We have a corporate DAF. It goes into our DAF and we distribute that out. 4 times a year, we use our team's network to find people in our networks that can provide workshops for what our clients want to hear about. So not about Boodle, not about AI, but what are the other things that they want to hear about? And we use our networks to put that together and put that workshop on once a quarter. 3% of our profits go back to nonprofits in the form of grants. So any organization that raises less than $1 million a year, we'll subsidize 50% of their first year license so they can get onto the platform, use it, and raise enough money to pay for their second license. 2% of our employees' time goes back to charity. So whether they want to leave every Friday to work at the local homeless shelter or a soup kitchen, or if they want to take off a week out of the year to build a school internationally, we let them go do that. And then my co-founder and I have both committed 1% of our equity to charity. But it's that kind of pledge attracts certain types of people. And that's that has definitely been a foundation of the culture that we've built within the company.
Why does AI matter for nonprofits?
We did it in the product we built. I literally 4 years ago, when I sat down with the development team, I told them, assume that our end user can watch Netflix, order on Amazon, and Google something. And that's it. It's got to be that simple. And at the end of the day, you don't want a development team filled with data scientists. They're too expensive. You don't want a development team that is really good at sitting behind a computer with a model. You want a development team that's good at the art of advancement. You want a development team that is good at relationships. And so what we do is when we talk to development teams, we focus on that. We focus on how we're going to empower them to spend more time on the relationship with their donors rather than the transactional component of trying to figure out who they should be talking to. And that tends to resonate with most organizations. It takes away the scary aspect of it. We also guarantee them that there aren't any terminators coming anytime soon. So that makes it a little bit easier.
What are the biggest barriers to better tech adoption in the nonprofit sector?
12 months ago, I would have had a very different answer. I would argue that in the last 10 months with COVID, nonprofits have accelerated around the technology adoption curve more in the last 10 months than they did in the last 10 years. If there is lemonade to be made out of the lemons of COVID, it's that. And I think that is gotten people to kind of shake that fear of new technology, that fear of discovering new things, and made them realize, hey, there's a world out there that we could be taking advantage of. A year ago, if you were a major gifts officer and you were caught at your desk trying to solicit a major gift donation from a donor, you'd have been fired. But today you have to use Zoom to solicit donations. It's perfectly accepted. And what people are finding, I talked to some of our clients, the high net worth people actually like it better because they don't have to spend a half hour getting ready, get in the car for half an hour, spend an hour and a half at lunch, and then drive a half hour home to write a check they were going to write anyways. Now they can do it in 20 minutes on a Zoom call. They can get all the information they want and they can still feel good. And for anybody in life, time is money. And they're getting back, 2 hours out of their day to go do other things.
How can you most effectively make the case internally to invest in new technology?
In the nonprofit space, it is not a one size fits all. Every organization is looking for something different. So in some cases, it's just showing how you save cost, right? We've been successful at walking into organizations that do massive direct mail every year, and we're able to save them 20, 30, 50% of their annual spend. That's huge for them. And that's what will focus and gain anybody's attention. Other organizations are thinking a little bit more strategically, and they want to grow. They're willing to invest now in order to have more donors in the donor database that are going to become lifetime donors. And so it's more important to them that they're targeting the right people and they're getting the right people in. So they don't want a donor for 1 year, they want a donor for life. And so what we found is, as with any good relationship, you have to find out what your customer wants. So we try and engage that in the first couple of conversations with them and then deliver what they need.
What is your best advice on improving data management?
First and foremost, if you look at the nonprofit space, my biggest piece of advice is start yesterday, because most organizations are putting it off. They're not doing it. They're doing kind of the minimal maintenance, and somewhere down the road when they decide to get serious, like, oh man, why weren't we doing this for the past 2 years? And it doesn't take a lot of work just to start. You don't have to start using data science. You don't have to start using AI, but data is the fuel for all of that. And data will be the fuel for the future. And so maintaining a good record and maintaining clean databases and consolidating and just collecting that information. And with technology today, it's very easy to capture a lot of information about your donors. Bringing that all in so that when you are ready, it's going to allow you to really leapfrog things.
What skills do your most successful customers have?
It's the customers who understand that advancement is relationships. There's a lot of people out there who are fundraising who it's very transactional. I have a number to meet. I need to raise a certain amount. I get a commission. I want to raise X. People who want to be transactional are not going to get there. People who don't understand that advancement is an art. For instance, in March and April of this year, you saw a lot of organizations that quit fundraising. And they wouldn't even talk to their donors because their mindset was, I only talk to a donor when I want money. And that was completely the wrong thing to do. Every organization should have reached out to every donor and not ask. If they weren't comfortable asking for money, fine, but let those donors know how they're going to weather through this process and how the people the animals, the children, whoever they serve, how they're going to be met through this. Because being top of mind and helping a donor understand is going to make that donor much more likely to feel connected later on when they are ready to open the wallet or the purse again and give.
Thanks for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this week's discussion. Be sure to join Empower Us for more resources and one-on-one help in finding the tech solutions you need. If you have any feedback or suggestions, you can email us at info@empowerus.org. Thank you.